The night was alive with pulsing music, neon lights, and the chaotic energy of a club packed to the brim, with bodies swaying, laughing, and shouting over the bass-heavy beats. Luna had never been one for crowded places, but tonight was different. Tonight, she was here for a reason she couldn't quite explain to herself, let alone to her best friend Mia, who had dragged her out of their shared apartment with promises of letting loose and living a little. Luna had reluctantly agreed, though her mind was elsewhere. She had been feeling off for weeks, like a shadow was following her, lurking just out of sight. But tonight, she told herself, she would push those thoughts aside. Tonight, she would try to be normal. The club was called Eclipse, a sprawling, multi-level venue with dim lighting, smoky air, and a labyrinth of hallways that seemed to lead nowhere. Luna stuck close to Mia as they navigated the sea of people, their drinks sloshing in their hands. The music was so loud it felt like it was vibrating in her bones, and the air was thick with the scent of sweat, alcohol, and something metallic she couldn't quite place. Mia was already laughing, her head thrown back as she danced with a group of strangers, but Luna felt uneasy. Her eyes darted around the room, scanning the faces, the shadows, the corners where the light didn't quite reach. It started with a feeling, a prickling sensation at the back of her neck, like someone was watching her. She turned, her heart skipping a beat, but there was no one there. Just the crowd, the lights, the noise. She shook it off, telling herself she was being paranoid. But then she saw him. A man, standing at the edge of the dance floor, his eyes locked on hers. He was tall, with sharp features and a cold, calculating expression that sent a shiver down her spine. He didn't look away when she caught his gaze. Instead, he smiled, a slow, deliberate smile that made her stomach churn. Luna turned back to Mia, her hands trembling as she grabbed her friend's arm. "We should go," she said, her voice barely audible over the music. Mia frowned, leaning in closer. "What? Why? We just got here." Luna shook her head, her eyes darting back to where the man had been standing. He was gone. Her breath hitched and she scanned the crowd, her heart pounding. I don't feel good. I think I need some air." Mia sighed but nodded, grabbing Luna's hand and leading her toward the exit. The cool night air hit Luna like a slap, and she took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves. They stood outside the club, the bass from inside still thumping through the walls. Mia lit a cigarette, offering one to Luna, who declined. "You okay?" Mia asked, her brow furrowed. Luna nodded, though she wasn't sure if she believed it herself. "Yeah, I thought I saw someone." Mia raised an eyebrow. "Someone? Like an ex or something?" Luna shook her head. "No, just someone creepy. It's probably nothing." But it wasn't nothing. As they stood there, Luna's eyes wandered to the alley beside the club. It was dark, the only light coming from a flickering street lamp at the far end. And there, standing in the shadows, was the man. He was watching her again, his expression unreadable. Luna's breath caught in her throat, and she grabbed Mia's arm. "We need to go, now." Mia followed her gaze, her eyes widening as she saw the man. "What the hell? Who is that?" Luna didn't answer. She just pulled Mia toward the street, flagging down a cab as fast as she could. The ride home was tense. Luna kept glancing out the back window, half expecting to see the man following them. But the streets were empty, and by the time they reached their apartment, she had almost convinced herself it was all in her head. Almost. The next few days passed in a blur. Luna tried to shake off the feeling of being watched, but it lingered, like a dark cloud hanging over her. She started noticing little things. A car parked outside her building for hours at a time, a figure standing across the street when she left for work, the sound of footsteps behind her when she walked home at night. She told herself it was coincidence, but deep down, she knew better. Then, one night, it all came to a head. Luna was home alone, Mia having gone out with friends. The apartment was quiet, the only sound the faint hum of the refrigerator. Luna was curled up on the couch, a blanket wrapped around her, trying to focus on the book in her hands. But her mind kept wandering, her eyes flicking to the windows, the doors, the shadows in the corners of the room. She jumped at every creak, every rustle of the wind outside. And then she heard it, a soft knock at the door. Her heart stopped. She sat frozen, her eyes locked on the door. The knock came again, louder this time. "Mia?" she called out, her voice trembling. There was no answer. Slowly she stood, her legs shaking as she approached the door. She peered through the peephole, her breath catching in her throat. It was him. The man from the club. He was standing there, his face calm, his eyes cold, and he was holding something. A knife. Luna stumbled back, her mind racing. She grabbed her phone, her hands shaking so badly she could barely dial 911. But before she could hit call, she heard the sound of the lock turning. He was inside. What followed was a nightmare. Luna ran, her screams echoing through the apartment as she tried to find a place to hide. She locked herself in the bathroom, but he broke the door down with terrifying ease. She fought, scratching, kicking, biting, but he was too strong. He dragged her out of the apartment, his hand clamped over her mouth to stifle her screams. She could feel the cold metal of the knife pressed against her side, his breath hot on her neck as he whispered, "Don't make a sound." He took her to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. The place was dark, the air thick with dust and the smell of decay. He tied her to a chair, his movements methodical, almost clinical. Luna sobbed, begging him to let her go, but he just smiled that same cold smile. "You should have stayed at the club," he said, his voice low and menacing. "You would have been safer there." Hours passed, though it felt like days. He taunted her, playing with the knife, tracing the blade along her skin without breaking it. He told her things, horrible things, about what he had done to others, what he was going to do to her. Luna's mind spiraled, her thoughts a jumbled mess of fear and desperation. She tried to think of a way out, but every plan seemed impossible. She was trapped, helpless. And then, just when she thought it was over, she saw her chance. He had stepped away for a moment, leaving the knife on a table just out of her reach. Luna's heart raced as she strained against the ropes, her wrists raw and bleeding. She could see the knife, so close, yet so far. She stretched, her fingers brushing the handle, and with one final desperate effort, she grabbed it. The next few moments were a blur. She cut herself free, her hands shaking so badly she could barely hold the knife. She could hear him coming back, his footsteps echoing through the warehouse. She hid behind a stack of crates, her breath coming in shallow gasps. He called out to her, his voice calm, almost amused. "You can't hide from me, Luna." She waited, her heart pounding in her chest until he was close enough. Then she lunged, plunging the knife into his side. He stumbled back, his eyes wide with shock, and she didn't wait to see if he would fall. She ran, her legs carrying her as fast as they could, out of the warehouse, into the night. She didn't stop until she reached a gas station, where she collapsed, sobbing, into the arms of a startled clerk. The police arrived soon after, but the man was gone. The warehouse was empty, the only evidence of what had happened, the blood on Luna's hands and the rope still tied to the chair. They searched for him, but he was like a ghost, vanishing into the night. Luna never felt safe after that. She moved out of the apartment, changed her number, even changed her appearance. But no matter how far she ran, she could never shake the feeling that he was still out there, watching, waiting. And sometimes, in the dead of night, she would wake up to the sound of a soft knock at her door. If you enjoyed this spine-chilling tale of terror and suspense, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss a story. Remember, the shadows are always watching, and danger can lurk where you least expect it. Until next time, stay safe, stay aware, and keep the lights on.